Okay, methyl is good. Methyl is perfect. Don't we know it? Um.
Stop it.
All right, Chris. Let's see how your new voice is.
You are captured,
This is my new voice.
stupid beast.
I'm saying hi
Hey,
specifically to the person in chat who said Chris said hi to me.
You should say the
Entering
line,
PR
Chris.
speak.
You
You
should
are
say the
captured,
line.
stupid beast.
Okay. Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games, here to get interrogated for 3 hours.
3,
You are captured, stupid beast.
5.
You put together a lot of questions.
Yeah. Well, mostly the community.
My notes are 4,300 words.
Holy shit. You actually had to like prep for this like it's a school test? You poor bastard.
Let's see. I'm just setting up your cameras, and then we're ready to go.
Fuck users.
Yeah, I always drag you into things.
I was trying to make it 1 or 2 hours later, Methil, for like your sake, but it didn't work.
Oh, that's Zizaran. It's
Bastard.
alright, it wouldn't have made a difference. It was just going to cut into my stream one way or the other, basically.
True. Alright. This almost looks reasonable. I think. For the most part. Alright.
This is all fine to be streamed right now, right?
Everybody can stream or restream this, yeah.
Well, I mean right now. What
Yeah.
we're currently saying. It's all good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Alright.
But now it looks like you're in big, empty corporate office.
It's the corner
Looking-
of my lap.
Looking down upon the peasants
There
from
is
your
a plant
ivory
in the
tower.
background. I have a monstera in the background that you can barely see. There we
Oh!
go.
There's a plant!
Yeah,
Yeah.
just shift it over a bit so we can see it. So it looks a bit more at home.
Ah. Alright, I
If this
think...
becomes a longer term thing, then yeah.
I think we are ready. Yeah, in like 3 days, he'll like shift the plant out a little bit. I think we're ready if both of you are ready.
Back to Awakened Gems, and so the intention is that we're going to be putting a bunch of power back on the level 5 versions of them, so it's a matter of finding the difficult to get gem and then also leveling it up to the top before you get some of that power. They also want to add new Awakened Gems that do more than just damage. Like this philosophy of us trying to make sure that utility support gems are interesting, they want to bring back some powerful ones that are utility rather than pure damage to give players more options there. So there's a bit of discussion internally for Awakened Gems at the moment that's quite exciting.
So why were they targeted to begin with, though? Awakened gems, like as part of this sweeping nerf. Like there was lots that you could have nerfed and lots you did nerf. Why were Awakened gems also, which were a pretty recent addition to the game, all things considered, that were doing a certain unique aspect for the end game progression?
Like, for example, we're making some guild changes in 3.16, and one of the things we were looking at, which was eventually not done in 3.16 because it's hard, is the concept of having like shared mastercrafts among guild members who are online at the time, or even friends who are online at the time potentially, where you have the ability for like, you've got a mastercraft, I want to use it. Normally I give you my item, I give you the currency for the craft, and I give you like a tip for your time, and then you leave with all of them. And then customer support doesn't do anything about it. And I'm not blaming our customer support department because there are a lot of false reports, I should add, about the scamming thing. That's why
Right.
we have to establish a pattern. But long story short, the ability to do that kind of trade securely is something that would benefit the game. We aren't doing it at the moment because there's other things we want to work on, to be honest. That's a bit of a pain to implement. But that would help the harvest situation from the point of view of safety without necessarily increasing the danger very much.
Right.
The Ashabi spawn rate, so yeah, it may be increased. I'm not philosophically opposed to that one. I know I've just said no for a long time, but yeah, that can be improved if people feel it needs to be.
Yeah.
There we go. We got a yes out of Chris in a harvest-related topic. You're welcome, community. I'm now your hero.
Wait, she doesn't let you craft, right?
Oh no.
I'm kidding.
Okay, next up. So smart loot. Smart loot gets asked about a lot, and things like, for example, seeing a big reduction on like maybe the drop pool, so that there's more things like less clutter. Obviously, you talked about being able to remove things.
So that's why we've kind of gone broadly, like clearly this is currency, it goes in the currency tab. Clearly that's a map, it goes over there. Clearly this is a div card, like
Sure,
quite broad categories.
sure, but we have, for example,
Yeah.
like prophecy and gem tabs would be easy things that don't even necessarily need their own tab, but would be really good to
Yeah.
have as part of the affinity.
To be completely honest, do not expect prophecy to remain part of the game for long. Like, let's rule that tab out. Whoops, I shouldn't have said that. Gem tab we can do.
Goodbye, purple lady. All right.
Is there ever a sort of a plan to maybe give a free tab to people, like that you can work towards, for example? Like, you complete Act 10 or something, you get a tab, or specifically even a premium tab, one that you can start selling stuff off, because that's a very powerful tool to maybe gate it behind, playing enough of the game. So is it just more like in-game friendliness for it?
I kind of imagine something like an advanced item view, which lets you like easily. I know we have an advanced item view, but I imagine something that's kind of interactable where you can click on a mod to see what else is in the family and what else rolls at a certain level, and you can change the level brackets and see what mods are possible. And like, it's a bunch of work for sure, but there's almost the ability to have kind of an item workshop kind of thing when you're crafting, so you can really clearly understand what's possible with each action you're about to do.
Mm-hmm.
Would be pretty cool. Unfortunately, a lot of work, but yeah.
Yeah.
With the influx of new players for PoE 2 especially, it could be something that's worth having in place by then.
Something.
Oh, the crafting tab. That's a good idea from chat. Gate it behind money. I'm just kidding.
I just thought of something related to the harvest thing earlier that I just spaced out on
The team about this, where I began to realize that the way the end game is currently set up is actually a bit contrary to the way I'd philosophically believe it should be. But without repeating that whole rant here, I think it's easy to emphasize that we're shortening this grind in 3.16 and we're completely redesigning it in 3.17, right? Like, yes, we hear you, right?
Sure.
Not going to argue with this one. I should note that we implicitly do want to give the best rewards for the highest content. Like, you're going to want to try to get to the end of the atlas, do all the hard things and so on to get the best items. And that's always going to be a goal here. The pacing of it is a bit interesting, though. And that leads on to my large rant, but we can probably skip that one.
Sure. Like the important bit here is that there is things that is fun in tier 1 maps, tier 5 maps, just different, right? And the economy is going to balance itself around that. And I agree, definitely, like the most endgame content should be the most.
Well, it's a really interesting discussion, and we'll bear it in mind with decisions around the campaign and stuff like that. I mean, we've had nuts ideas for leagues in the past. Like we had this one where you find itemized characters. It's like a doll or something like that of a marauder, and you can roll mods on it. So you chaos it until it's got like specific keystones, and then when you expand that, it turns into a character on your account with like pre-allocated passive. I mean, this is crazy and silly, but we come up with some nuts ideas for stuff that we can't do.
Right.
Well, that was part of the whole suggestion for the campaign thing. You brought up D2, but like D2. And a lot of these ARPGs had this very classic system of normal, nightmare, hell, right? And you had to go through it 3 times. And then it felt like you just threw that entire system out and made this, Act 1 to 10. And it was a big game changer. And softcore isn't just like going ahead and, zerging away through the game. It is saying no to some of those offenses and then building defenses because it's so tempting. And I don't want to throw my good friend Quinn69 under the bus, but that's exactly, you could see it very much in his first attempt on softcore that he's on there and he wants all the DPS and then he skips out on a lot of the defense and then dies a lot and then it feels bad. And the challenge is saying no to some of that damage and then still building some defense. And it's hard to do. And that's why I'm always building paper-thin characters, right? I'm known for my 4K life builds. But it's basically just always going for the bare minimum of defense and life to survive so many situations and still squeak by. And that's kind of the entire point there. It's the challenge is in saying no to damage and then still building some defense.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Like a splinter. But
I'd love to click on
it doesn't necessarily have to be something you pick up and that is tradable as well.
That's true. But in all seriousness, we want to make these bosses more accessible in smart ways. So here's a couple of things. So we're doing delve rebalance in 316, or at least intending to if we can find time. And the goal here is to make all more common, like as in you get more access to cities and that kind of stuff. Like the goal is it's not as hard to find him.
Nice.
If Ultimatum comes back to core, we're going to look at smarter ways to access the Trial Master. Like there's good suggestions from the community. Like for example, the longer your winning streak is between subsequent rounds, the more likely the Trial Master is to occur, because that actually gives you a strategy, a thing you can do to try to make it a bit more common. I mean, at the end of the day, the rare bosses with rare drops are going to be rare, but having some way to control it and feel a bit more involved in the process will be good, so that we don't have to do the splinter approach. Diversity point.
Yes.
But I got a good email about build diversity yesterday from, I'm going to read you the email. Sorry, this is just going to take a second, but it's worthwhile. So, a gentleman wrote in and said, "Hey Chris, longtime PoE player and graduate researcher here who specializes in complex systems and emergent phenomena. You're going to be asked about build diversity by Zizaran on your next interview. And he mentioned something in his previous video, it'd be great if the most played build was only 4%, which suggests that we need to discuss the concept of preferential attachment and cumulative advantage. So he says, I've analyzed data for the most played skills on all ascendancy classes in SSF hardcore and softcore trade, comparing them to purely random preferential attachment distributions. His conclusion is the distribution of played skills in either league conforms with a cumulative advantage / preferential attachment mechanism.
Most people.
I think that if we're going to be putting the effort into buffing random things, we should just do it before the patch. Like if I'm going to just double the damage of Glacial Hammer, it's happening before launch and in the patch notes so people can consider it when they're considering their builds. I think it's still a bit of a feel bad too. You're playing your one thing and then you find out that Glacial Hammer is the new in skill and you just didn't know that when you chose what to invest your resources in. It was just a lottery what got the treatment. I don't think we got bad backlash for the buffs. I mean, the fact that buffs were necessary caused some people to question our development skills. Like certainly that, was an overall a bad thing. But just because we didn't receive backlash for fixing them probably doesn't mean we should have a policy of randomly buffing stuff after people have picked what characters they're going to play.
Gems you're hiding for new players, it's still like a large amount. But it's often very much more confusing that they just don't have access to things.
There's examples like Templars not getting critical strike gems that we probably need to fix, and we're going to go through and review this. And this is a good opportunity for me to mention that in hard mode there are no gem vendors whatsoever. You've got to find all the gems that you don't get from quest rewards. So the people who appreciate that will know why it's good. You know how Awakened gems are fun? It's that.
Yeah, no, that sounds fun for hard mode.
How far have you gotten, Chris? How hard mode viable have you been so far?
I'm just doing early testing with itemization stuff. I haven't had enough deep playthroughs, but it starts soon. Do you want in on the early internal alpha?